know. Hey, we're back. This is Trevor Crow, Trevor and Friends. I am now in the studio, delightfully, actually, with Elliot Alchek, David Weisbrod. They are both members of our Board of Estimate and Taxation, and they're candidates in this municipal election. I'm going to start with Elliot. Elliot is an accomplished financial executive with deep experience in capital markets, hedge funds, and real estate investing. He was partner and president of DKR Capital Securities and previously a managing director at Goldman Sachs, where he led municipal bond sales and structured finance. This is very important, Elliot. We need you badly in this town. I'm going to jump to David Weisbrod now. David is currently serving his fourth term. David, on the BET. Prior to the BET, he served as the chair of the Greenwich Planning and Zoning Board of Appeals. You do know the town well. He worked at J.P. Morgan for 39 years and retired as vice chairman for risk management. David, between the two of you, got all the capabilities and knowledge we need. So all of your years combined on Wall Street between the two of you is how much?
Well, probably 80.
80? That's quite a bit. Okay, please tell us a little about yourselves and what drew you to run for the BET. We'll start with David.
So thanks, Trevor. It's a joy to be here with you today. So look, we've been living in Greenwich for 40 years. We have deep roots here in Greenwich. My 3 children went to school, public school in Greenwich. My daughter was co-captain of the swim team at Greenwich High School. My 2 sons were oboe players and tennis players in the high school, and so we go back a long time. And now we have 2 grandsons who are in the public schools at Old Greenwich School.
Very important.
So it's all about commitment to this community and love for the beauty and wonder of Greenwich.
Yes, it is beautiful and wonderful. I agree. Elliot, how about yourself?
Well, first off, Trevor, thanks for having us today, and thank you for everything you do for our town, getting the word out, etc. I am enjoying my 31st anniversary, almost to the day today. We raised 3 amazing kids here. And luckily for us, our kids really enjoy coming back to Greenwich to visit. And in many respects, my desire to give back is a little selfishly connected to keeping Greenwich a great community where my kids want to return.
And that's so important, and all of us really want that, that our children are able to come back here. So there's a lot of issues regarding this. So now I'm going to jump into, maybe we'll start with Elliot. How would you describe your experience on the BET over the past few years, couple years?
So I've been on the BET now for 2 years. I serve on the HR committee. I serve on the Investment Advisory Committee. I'm the liaison to the town assessor. I would say very different experience my first year from my second year. My first year, frankly, I was very encouraged. We reached some very important compromise. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. But we reached some important compromise, particularly with regard to the school. Several of the Republicans came across the line and voted with the 6 Democrats, and we passed the school budget as one important example. My second year was frankly a disaster. 24 of the 42 votes taken during the budget were decided in tie-breaking votes, and they were all to cut the budget. Now, if you add another 6 votes, which were ties, that's 30 of 42 votes that the Republican-led BET used to cut the budget. And,
Wow.
And this wasn't a Democratic budget.
No.
Right? This was a budget supported by the Republican first selectman. It was a budget that was supported by a bipartisan Board of Ed, and it was a budget that the RTM overwhelmingly supported. And what did they do? They cut as everyone knows, $4 million from the schools, which has been very controversial and led to disruptive changes in start times.
A mess, by the way.
They cut ADA compliance for sidewalks. They cut HVAC for Ham Ave School. They even cut $50,000 for the plan, not the actual spending, but just the plan to redo Dorothy Hamill Rink. And it's a miracle that that project is still moving forward. So a disaster, and it's been well publicized. The Republicans themselves are fighting each other as a result.
You can see that by the primary. Right now, we're having a primary for Republican candidates for the Board of Estimate and Taxation. The Republicans themselves cannot make up their own minds. So this is a very important topic. And David, you've been doing this for a very long time, right? Your fourth term. This is 8 years.
8 years. Yes, it is.
I can add. Oh my gosh, multiply. But so 60% of those decisions or those votes were kind of co-opted by the Republicans. But how do you feel about that?
It's just not the way it should work. There were 2 years in my 8-year experience when the Democrats controlled the BET. By control, I mean we had the tie-breaking vote, which now resides with the Republicans. And we rarely, if ever, used a tie-breaking vote because we worked across the aisle much more effectively to engage, whether you're Republican or Democrat. Look, these are decisions that affect the whole community, and we have to act accordingly. That's really the key to the whole thing. So It's changed, and it's changed in a way that's, frankly, just not normal.
It's really unfortunate, and I do know we absolutely have to work across the aisle with one another to get our goals, to accomplish the things that we need to do. So speaking of accomplishments, what are you most proud of while being on the BET? You want to start, Elliot?
Surely. The first thing I should say, and I shouldn't have to say this, is the professionalism. My professionalism, our caucus's professionalism, at a time when professionalism on the BET is not something to
questionable, possibly.
home about. I'm proud. The first year, I'm proud that I was part of brokering some of the compromise that we achieved. I'm proud of being part of a great team. We have an awesome team currently on the BET and the two new candidates that are running with us. I'm proud of the fact that we have been right on key issues that are really important to this town, such as CMS and OGS. You know, we supported those issues years before the Republicans voted for them. Right? We were on the right side of those issues, and finally a few Republicans crossed over party lines and voted along with us.
Thank God.
And I think we had a real positive impact on our town, despite the fact that we are not in control. But we want to change that.
Just sort of a note, anybody listening right now, this is Trevor Crow. The show is Trevor and Friends. I am talking to our BET members, Board of Estimate and Taxation members, Elliot Alchek and David Weisbrod. They're also candidates to be reelected. Please make sure to vote in the municipal elections, especially Democrats. We tend not to show up. So this is truly important. We're talking about what's been going on at the BET and how we have stopped really working across the board. So, David, you didn't tell me what you're most proud of yet. I want to hear that.
So, in addition to the things that Elliot said, one of the things I would point out is that there was a plan, a kind of an ill-conceived plan regarding Greenwich Plaza that would have foregone the ground lease, that the air right lease that the town owns. It would have cost this town in the order of about $50 million. And we shined a light on this, and fortunately there was enough of a stir in the community so that a groundswell emerged and it was defeated. And so all of the work you see going on Railroad Avenue today is being funded by the developer and not as a result of foregoing the rights that we, the town, had. So that's something I'm particularly proud of because it saved the town quite a lot of money. The other thing to mention is the need to plan our capital needs over more than 1 year.
Huge issue, huge.
And so, what we're seeing here is a year-by-year approach, which is really short-sighted. We need to look out over several years so that we can stage our investments and plan for them accordingly and bond for them in the financial markets in a way that makes the most sense for Greenwich.
This is incredibly important topic. Just a little shout out. Elliot mentioned Central Middle School. It is very exciting. If you haven't driven by it, go take a look. And again, one of the most important things we've done as a community, because we need our schools to be up to date, and that keeps us competitive with people, young families moving to our neighborhood. So next question for you guys. Why should people vote for Democrats? And I'm going to add on to this question as well, which is, are you guys going to raise taxes?
Well, I'll start with that. Look, when we were in charge, when we had the tie-breaking vote, if you will, the chairmanship of the BET back in 2017, we increased taxes the first year 0%.
Did you hear that, everybody?
Right.
Democrats increased taxes by 0.
And then the next year, a little bit over 2%, which in some, it was about a 1.37% increase per year tax increase, which is substantially less than what the Republican BET has done with taxes over the prior to 10 years. Mm-hmm. So any notion that the Democrats are going to raise your taxes is false. It's simply not borne out by the facts of when we were in charge. So we're very mindful of the need to run this town prudently. Look at our resumes. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley. We really have very strong finance backgrounds, and we're going to apply those, and we have applied those backgrounds to serve this community. That's what drives us.
It's very important. Elliot?
So let me add to what David indicated. Different members of our board kind of come from things from different perspectives. My perspective is on taxes, frankly. And so your taxes will be lower than they would be with a Republican-led BET.
Why is that?
Let me repeat that. Your taxes will be lower with a Democratic-led BET than a Republican-led BET. And the simple reason for that is spending, right? It all comes from spending, and we are wasting money now. We're wasting money by delaying CMS, OGS. And we're in the process of wasting money on the Dorothy Hamill rink. We're putting that back. There are numerous examples. One of the best examples, perhaps, is the Cohen Center, which I think is beautiful. And like you mentioned about Trevor, like you mentioned about CMS, go to the Cohen Center if you haven't been there. It's beautiful. The Cohen Center should have been renovated over 20 years ago. I live close by to it. I watched the building disintegrate. You couldn't walk into it. It was unsafe, a decade ago. We could have renovated that a decade ago for probably under $10 million. Fast forward to today, $25 million to renovate it. We got $5 million generously from the Cohen family. Thank you very much. That's great. But that didn't cover the additional construction inflation cost. So we ended up paying double the price, and we didn't have the facility for over a decade.
Insane. So again, anybody listening, this is Trevor Crow. The show is Trevor and Friends. I am talking to Elliot Alchek, David Weisbrod. Both are members of the Board of Estimate and Taxation. We're talking about very, very important topic for our town, the health and longevity of our facilities right now. And this is a problem that is rolled out for a very long time. It's called kick the can down the road. And now we have over $1 billion, right, of projects that need to be funded, to be fixed. And it's just costing us more money every year we delay this stuff. And now with tariffs, I don't know if you read these articles about lumber just going up by 30% or more. So our town is paying more and more because of these delays. So this is very frustrating. I don't know how you guys deal with this.
It is frustrating. And, kicking the can down the road is not a good idea under any circumstances. But when you have an inflationary environment like we have now, it's particularly bad for the welfare of the community. So you're right. It's a good point. Very good.
So one of the things I want to sort of have people who are listening today really understand, because this gets a little more nitty-gritty, a little tougher to explain, but we've been doing something wrong with our bonding, our financing of our projects in our town for a very long time. What would the two of you do differently?
Well, let me start off with that. So before I get into the details, let me first explain how things are done now. And Trevor, as you alluded to, the Republican-controlled BET now has a pay-as-you-go model, and that means today we issue 2 years of bond anticipation notes. So a bond anticipation note is a 1-year instrument. It matures in a year, and then we pay that back with the proceeds of a new 1-year instrument. And then at the end of that year, we issue 5 years worth of serial bonds with a 2.5-year average life. So in total, we're issuing debt for approximately 5.5 years in total. That's what we're doing now. We're mismatching the duration of the debt issuance with the duration of the asset, right? So these assets, generally speaking, for schools, for example, are long in duration. A school has a 40, 50-year life to it. The Cohen Center, probably similar. So, and we're issuing five years worth of debt. There's a dramatic mismatch. And I have to tell you that virtually every municipality in the United States, and this is something I know something about because I spent the early part of my career in this market, virtually every municipality in the United States issues long-term debt to finance a long-term asset. And we're obviously not doing that. In the state of Connecticut, take schools, for example. Schools are issued with 20-year debt, which is considered shorter-term debt. Schools around the United States often issue 30-year debt, right? So we're, in the state, to begin with, we're shorter at 20-year debt. Makes absolutely no sense. So my recommendation would obviously be to closer match your duration of your liability to the duration of your asset.
Can I jump in just for 1 second to sort of simplify things? This means that me, as a Greenwich taxpayer, are paying off in a 5-year period for a school that's going to last 60, 70 years potentially. And I don't want to say older person, but I'm 63. My kids are gone out of the school system.
Right. So, you make a good point. It's totally unfair to the seniors. Why should a senior, fund a school through their taxes in the span of 5 years when future generations of people moving into Greenwich will benefit from that, and it therefore should match the duration of those who enjoy the benefit of what they're paying. And it's not a dogma, what Elliot is saying. There's nothing dogmatic about any of this. We certainly wouldn't use 20-year debt to finance, police vehicles and things that have short duration lives. But when you have just like you wouldn't finance your home with a mortgage of 1 or 2 or 5 years, we think it makes the most sense. And had we applied this approach and financed Central and Old Greenwich at an earlier stage, we would have been paying 0 to 1% interest instead of 4% today.
Unbelievable.
So it's really a little bit of malpractice in my view.
How much do you think that
and
decision-making has cost taxpayers here in Greenwich?
It's millions of dollars, really millions of dollars. And but again, there's no dogma here. There's no ideology here. It's just a question. Elliot's professors at the University of Chicago Business School would be aghast if they. And if you look at Darien, New Canaan, all at Westport, these AAA communities, they don't do this. It's something that's unique here in Greenwich, and it's unnecessary.
It's truly unnecessary. Now, I think the other question anybody listening to this right now would be wondering: does that raise our taxes if we bond longer?
Well, it actually, if we bond longer, it lowers the mill rate, right?
Really?
It lowers the mill rate. And I want to just expand on the point that David made, which is a really important point. It's the fairness across generations, right?
Yes.
We're trying to allocate the cost of the expense of the school, of the convention center, etc., over a longer period of time. So that lowers the interest rate lowers the mill rate, and it helps us manage the mill rate. And as David said eloquently, we're not doing this. We're not going to borrow long-term money for a short-term asset like a police car, right? So the other thing to keep in mind with municipal debt, I mean, municipal bonds are unique in the world, in the capital markets. It's a subsidy by the federal government to help the local capital markets be robust. And so we're not taking advantage of the subsidy, which is just foolish. It's just simply foolish. So what the Republicans are doing essentially is saying, we don't want to borrow, and what they're really saying is, we don't want to spend. We don't want to spend the money in the first place. If we don't spend the money in the first place, we don't have to borrow, right? That's all they're really saying. It's code.
Right.
It's coded.
But let's be clear here, because I believe there's several, maybe more than several, capital projects that must be funded to make sure that we are safe as a community. I'm just thinking simply like sewer, just
Right.
hardening the sewer system.
So look, it's not about spending or not spending. It's about the essential infrastructure of the community. So eventually we did get the Republicans to agree to build a new central middle school. It's essential. Everybody knows it. Delaying it cost us additional money. This is not a nice to have. It's a necessity. Or the renovation of a flood-ridden Old Greenwich School is another essential. This is not nice to have. And another matter is the sewers, as you mentioned. There's a line item that was presented by the Department of Public Works for a flood protection for the sewer. Can you imagine if our sewer system were to flood? All of these dollars, $130 million of necessary investments. We're talking about the sewer plant. We're talking about the skating rink and the like that everyone knows are going to. Were eradicated in the long-range plan, in the strategic plan.
Wait.
And it is tantamount to cooking the books, because if you don't see the numbers, then you don't have to address those numbers. But the numbers are not numbers; they are necessities that will confront our community in the near future. We must keep our eyes open, address it, and deal with it. We can't sweep it under the rug and wish it away.
So, David, I just want to be very clear. When you say eradicated from the plan, they just disappeared. Who disappeared these projects?
It was another of the tie-breaking votes. They were taken out of the strategic plan, and the argument is, well, we don't know exactly what they'll cost, therefore we'll say zero. It's true we don't know what they'll cost, but to say zero is irresponsible, financially reckless, and just not fiscally prudent.
Incredible. We just have a few minutes left. So I'll ask each one of you. We'll start with Elliot. What concerns do you have for the future right now?
I think that there are many things that I'm concerned about. My pet peeve, as I've mentioned, is waste. I think we're wasting a lot of money by delaying things, by, as David says, we're not recognizing that we have these major capital projects coming up, and that delay translates into higher costs. That's one of my major concerns. I think the other, on a more fundamental level, is the communication and the camaraderie of the institution has really broken down, and for this last year, the body has been completely dysfunctional, and it's been frustrating. And don't take my word for that. Look to Fred Camillo, who has said as much.
Yes.
So
yes.
you have 12 people vying for 6 spots on the Republican side alone. That's an example of
chaos.
Of chaos and where we are.
Yeah, David, any last comments?
Yeah, I mean,
for
I
us?
would boil it down to 2 things. We really want to return to a more normal governance in this town, a calmer, less frenetic, less chaotic, normal interchange of ideas among financial professionals who are looking out for the welfare of the community. There are no right or wrong answers on many of these things, but there are facts that have to be looked at, and we want to get back to that era. The era in a different generation when we had different types of Republicans that were a little more civic-minded than some of the ones we're dealing with currently. So we're looking forward to that. And the specific one is that we need to deal with these capital needs that are going to confront us over the next several years and address them squarely and figure out the most prudent and fiscally responsible way to address them. They're not nice to haves. They really have to be done. And if you do it right and do it smartly and stage it in the right way, they will not inordinately raise our taxes. They will not.
Important. All right, we're going to have to wrap it up. This is Trevor Crow. The show is Trevor and Friends. I've been on with David Weisbrod, Elliot Alchek. Excellent, interesting conversation. Very important. We have a lot to think about. Be sure to vote in municipal election. It is coming up November 9th. Is that right?
4th. 4th.
Pardon me, 4th. And remember to vote for Democrats. And Democrats, get out and vote. And these issues are incredibly important to the viability, the health, long-term goals of our community, keeping it as beautiful as it is. So everybody have a great day. I'll be talking next week. Take care.